Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another installment of ISV Connect Live. My name is Brian Galicia. I lead our business applications global ISV business, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome Amir, who's the Chief Business Development Officer at WalkMe. And so, Amir, will come to you in a few seconds, but one of the things I wanted to kind of kick us off is just welcome everyone to joining our live event this morning. We truly appreciate you spending your Monday morning with us or Monday afternoon, depending on where you're watching this from. So a couple things that just to get started. One is throughout the conversation, if there's something that prompts your interest and you have a question for us, feel free to put it in the comments. Also, to get started, to start the icebreaker going, we kind of always traditionally do this at the start of our ISV Connect Live shows, is if you want to put in where you're watching from. Maybe you're watching from Israel with Amir. Maybe you're watching from the UK. Maybe you're watching from somewhere in the US or Canada or even LATAM. We'd love to have you put the comments in there. We're actually going to give you a shout out to actually comment where you're watching from. So with that being said, Amir, thank you so much for spending your afternoon. It looks like a lovely day in Israel today. So thanks for making the time.
It is. And thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So
how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thank you. Yeah. It's unfortunately the weather isn't as nice. You have a nice sunny background. If I turn my camera around, you'd actually see it's raining in Seattle. So
it's a beautiful spring day here outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It looks like it just with your background in the screen. So let's do a quick shout out before we do quick backgrounds of yourself and what you do at WalkMe. And then I'll ask you the one question I always ask all my guests, because I always learn something super fascinating with our leaders who join us, is what's one thing that's not on your profile? I'm going to do a quick shout out to a few people just watching. So Mala, I'm not sure where you're watching from, but thank you for watching and joining this morning. Luna, another person from just in your neck of the woods in Tel Aviv, Israel. We have someone from the great state of Utah, and I'll have to look on my screen because sometimes LinkedIn doesn't showcase the actual user, but I'll have to quickly look who's dialing in from Utah. We have someone from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you. We also have another person from Atlanta. Thanks, Randy. There we go. Mala is from London. So I did predict that we'd have someone from the UK because we typically do. We have Dan from Chicago, and we have Nikki from St. Louis. And then one more that's jumping in, Dallas representing. So that's great. And then one more, we have Donna from rainy Vancouver. Yeah, it's just north of us. I love Vancouver. Once the border opens up, I can't wait because that's one of my favorite places to visit really quickly. Gosh, I might not be able to do this because it's great. We're getting a lot of people chiming in. This might take all day if I end up doing it. So I'm going to stop there. And let's just get to kind of the dialogue, Amir. So why don't you talk about a little bit about yourself, what you do at WalkMe, and then, yeah, what's one thing that you're okay with sharing with our broad audience? Because it looks like we have a pretty good live viewership today. What's one thing that's not in your LinkedIn profile just to get the icebreaker started?
And something that won't embarrass me, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. First of all, a few things. I often get mistaken for Bruce Willis, for Vin Diesel, for Mr. Clean. I think you can understand why. But more seriously, things about not in my LinkedIn profile. I think it's mostly about things I did and how I got into tech as a tech kid. When I was 12, 13, actually, I got my first computer for my bar mitzvah. And this is early 80s. I mean, you can tell my age a little. So early 80s, when personal computers just started, and I was fascinated by how technology can actually make our lives better. And I taught myself coding, and I spent hours of hours writing programs that would make my life better. They would compute me up in the morning. It would my school schedule. It would print the list for the grocery shopping. Then I wrote my own first Hebrew word processor for Apple computers that was used by many of my friends and businesses in Israel. And I loved it. And I think it actually, if I look at my entire career, ever since my first exposure with computers, it was always being fascinated by how technology makes us better, more productive, just we could do more with technology. So is that enough of an icebreaker?
Oh, no, it's perfect. No, yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it would be great if you all could just share, what do you specifically do as the Chief Business Development Officer at WalkMe?
So I actually wear two hats. So I joined WalkMe 6.5 years ago when the company we were only like 50 people. Now we're more than 1,000 people. So we're one of the fastest enterprise applications platform in the world. I'm kind of responsible for two things. One is I oversee our alliances globally. And for us, alliances are either alliances with software vendors such as Microsoft, but also with the system integrators and providers, because WalkMe is a platform, requires implementation. So we work closely with the Accenture and Deloitte and PwC and smaller firms as well. That's one hat. The other hat I wear as the Chief Business Development Officer is that I'm often the connector to C-level executives at our customers. So I'm the CIO whisperer, if you will. So oftentimes I'm on the initial calls with the CIO, CDO, CTOs that are considering getting into the world of digital adoption in WalkMe.
Oh, that's great, Amir. Gosh, well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, those are amazing engagements that you have, to build out partnerships to grow the ecosystem jointly with us and with yourself, but also to have a pulse as to what customers are needing, to give you the opportunity to make those right partnerships to drive that digital adoption advancement, which is great. So that's a good segue into, I know what WalkMe does. I know probably many people on this live event does, but I think it's really good to just set the tone, because you think about any type of software solution, especially during the pandemic, and people go, well, how do I get adoption? How do I drive these engagements? Because training and face-to-face didn't happen for over a year. Give us a little background of what does WalkMe do? What are the outcomes we solve jointly together? That would be a good background for the people watching.
So maybe to answer that is I think it'll make more sense to actually explain the problem that we're solving and how we got into this, what we do, which we call digital adoption or digital adoption platform. And basically, if you think about their lives, our world of most enterprises, is we live in this era of digital transformation, where over the past decade or so, companies have been investing so much in technology in order to boost productivity, efficiency of the workforce, and so on and so forth. And there's just a lot going on. And what we found ourselves is that the world we live in of enterprise applications is that companies push so much technology in front of the users. Every vendor claims, whether it's Microsoft or any of the other vendors, that their applications are intuitive, that they invest a lot in the UI and the user experience. But if you think about it, Brian, the world of enterprise applications is complex. And we live in this era of best of breed applications. Users have to juggle between different applications that come from different vendors that look nothing like each other and constantly change. And what happens in empowering users, we expect them to be able to use all those technologies we put in front of them, but they're just not able to cope with this. And if you think about it, how companies have traditionally tried to onboard users, support users, train users, whatever you want to call it, that traditional approach of user guides, video tutorials, train the trainer, all that stuff just doesn't cut it anymore. It's too much content. It's outdated. Nobody has, we live in this TLDR era. Nobody has the bandwidth or the nobody wants to read or go through those guides. And what we did is we said, well, we need to come up with a completely different approach, different solutions. So what we did is we came up with this solution that is called digital adoption. That I think if I were to simplify what we do, I would say that and I honestly believe that what WalkMe did to the world, the magnitude of the paradigm shift that we introduced to the market is as big as what GPS and navigation systems have done to our lives. And what I mean about that, I mean, if you think about our lives, 20 something years ago, before we had GPS, every time each and every one of us needed to reach an unknown destination, we had to open a map. We had to plan ahead of times, get that driving directions. We had to figure out how to get there. Today, nobody does it, right? We punch in the address in our phone, in our car, and off we go. But if you think about that paradigm shift of navigation systems, is that they're not there to teach us how to reach our destination, but rather they show us in real time. And they do it whether it's our first time trying to get there, or we forgot, or something changed. They basically become our personal assistant to make sure we reach our destination in the most efficient manner. Well, WalkMe does something similar and more. In the world of application, our paradigm is basically not even reduced. We can eliminate the need for people to be trained, to remember, to figure out, how do I do anything on using any of my digital assets? How do I navigate through my digital business processes without learning how to do it, how to remember how to do it? It's basically driving me or guiding me through the process. We've got analytics capabilities and automation capabilities, but basically we make our users, the Microsoft Dynamics users, we make them super users. We make them bionic users. We really allow them to take advantage of all those technology investments that they put in front of them. Now, you mentioned the pandemic. I think the fact that now we're not in the office, many of us still are not, and we kind of got used to this new normal lifestyle, is that even more, you need to be able to empower people to be productive, to hit the ground running, to know what to do, and to do it effectively. And nothing like a digital adoption solution that will be there to kind of watch over the user's shoulders, to make sure they're doing things correctly, and so forth. So we're basically seeing, the world is now seeing what we said that is going to happen a few years ago when we came up with the digital adoption platform. It's actually, a few years ago when we started, it was hard to convince customers why they even need this.
That's right.
It was a nice to have. It's now becoming a necessity, and even more than that, to the fact that Gartner, just a few months ago, they came out with a paper in which they predict that by 2025, so in about 4 years, they expect that 70% of digital stack. And we're currently, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 15% market penetration. You're going to see a huge spike in WalkMe becoming a must-have rather than a nice-have for many organizations. And we see that with many C-level executives at Fortune 2000, Fortune 500, Fortune 10 companies that deploy our solutions on top of it.
Amir, gosh, so much to unpack of what you just said. It's amazing because I love the GPS analogy. And I think about, because we see road construction all the time, and you think about business applications and how complex CRM and in particular ERP is, and in our case, how we translate that in the dynamics speak is customer engagement or finance and operations. We know that when customers make those buying purchases and decisions to impact business outcomes, they don't just take the vanilla out of the box capabilities for the most part, because they're aligning it specifically to an industry, to a scenario, et cetera. And so that's what I call construction. And so when you can imagine a GP or GPS analogy, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's what's great about it, because when GPS recognizes, oh, there's a traffic or there's construction that you can't even go to that street anymore, it redirects you. And
we actually call this how we do this. It's contextual guidance, because if you think about how it was done before, it was all the training content, the video, they were all static. Like everybody got the same way. Navigation system, they're contextual, right? As you said, they know if there's a roadblock, know if there's traffic change. If you took the wrong turn, it'll always guide you within your context. WalkMe does something similar in the world of applications. It'll know who you are as the user, what you've done, what is the right path. It really guides you within your context, and context in the world of application has a lot of things in it.
That's right. Gosh, that's so great, Amir. So I still fondly remember, gosh, it was over a year ago because I've only been in my current role at Microsoft for about a year and a half. And that's when I started to get exposed to WalkMe, because the WalkMe leadership reached out to Microsoft saying, hey, we want to be part of the Microsoft ecosystem. And so give us a little bit about that experience, because I know you and many of your, well, the CEO and others were part of that engagement. What is that WalkMe experience journey been like? Because of course, people on this call are not just customers, but we also have partners on the phone that are on the live event that kind of think about, gosh, do I invest in being a partner with Microsoft? From your alliance leadership perspective, give us a perspective of
I must say Microsoft has been amazing in embracing the value that WalkMe brings to our joint customers, and that's almost an exception from when you compare to how other big software vendors have looked at us. And I'll explain what that means. If you think about what WalkMe does, is that we simplify the experience, right? And oftentimes big software vendors, such as Microsoft and others, they may take offense at the fact that, why need to simplify the experience? We're spending, millions of dollars every year on our user experience. I think Microsoft realized that, what I said earlier, that enterprise applications are complex, and the fact that this era of best of breed, that users, one thing that we're lacking in the world of enterprise applications, one big thing, is a unified user experience. Every application, every process looks different. And Microsoft kind of embraced the value of WalkMe through the ISV Connect, said, well, we can actually help our customers get a lot more of their Dynamics investment. They can hit the ground running. They can change business processes easily without having to train or retrain users. It's there to really help our joint customers get the most out of their technology investments. You guys have been amazing, really, both promoting and opening doors, and thank you for that. Even this, this example is one, just another example of how great Microsoft has been with embracing our alliance. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's been great, Amir. I think I love the journey that we've been on from the beginning of time, because we've seen that a great engagement of not just customers seeing the demand for what you described, but also our own selling organization as they're uncovering conversations, and our not just selling organization, our customer success managers working with our Dynamics accounts to drive higher adoption. So why don't we go into kind of examples of success? So if you can articulate for the people, like some examples that you witnessed, and I know you mentioned the CIO whisperer example. So, like, where are some of the examples that you've seen where we've seen good success with some of our customers?
We've got thousands of customers all over the globe, many joint successes with Microsoft. One that come to mind is actually a recent success, so that's still fresh in my mind, and that's an industrial automation company. They're fairly large. They're a Dynamics customer, Dynamics CRM customer. I think they've got 20,000 sellers, users, and they were expanding their Dynamics footprint while changing business processes globally. And how do you do this? How do you train people to do this thing? And WalkMe comes to their rescue, I guess, and it really created a win-win. The customers were super happy. I think Microsoft, the Microsoft team, both the account team, the customer success managers, they already see the value this generates to the customer. The customer even came and spoke at our recent sales kickoff to talk about what a great that was, and it's just one of many examples. I think we've been talking so much about what WalkMe does. There's one thing that is very cool about WalkMe, that it's very visual. So maybe instead of me and you just talking about it, maybe we show the audience a quick example of WalkMe in action. Would that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense, Amir. So I'm going to bring Zach Cohen. We can. So I'm going to bring Zach Cohen on stage. Magically, he's going to appear. And so Zach, can you hear us okay?
I
Yeah, there we go.
can. Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, good morning. So, hey, thanks for joining us as we kind of get to the second half of the event. And before we get started with Zach, as for the people listening live, if you have a question, like maybe something sparked your interest in the dialogue that Amir had leading up to this, or as you're watching Zach showcase, again, the visual capabilities and how easy it is and the outcomes it could solve, please put it in the comment window, and then we'll potentially ask that, so that, because we have the experts on here to be able to ask a question. So let me go ahead and Zach, add your screen here and have you kind of take it away and showcase just a few examples of what this looks like within the Dynamics experience with WalkMe.
Amazing. Thank you, Brian. And I love being called an expert. That doesn't happen very often, so thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, Amir. So yes, I'm going to be just spending the next 5 minutes going through a quick teaser demo, giving you some quick insights into what WalkMe actually looks like on the Dynamics platform. So just as a reminder, WalkMe is a digital adoption platform that layers on top of Dynamics or any other web-based software. We actually can sit on the top of a desktop and a mobile device as well. But essentially what we're doing is we're driving behavior through 4 different components. So Amir talked about the guidance piece, and I'll show you what that looks like. We have an engagement component to our to WalkMe as well. We also have a powerful analytics engine that's sort of running data and capturing user behavior. And then we have sort of a robotic or an automation piece that really simplifies processes. So for the sake of this little teaser demo, we're going to pretend that I'm a brand new user in Dynamics, or I just was onboarded and brought onto this new company. So what we're seeing here is a WalkMe shout out that's recognizing, hey, you're a new user here. We have a few options for you, and also note that WalkMe can segment content or this type of shout out or any other material based off of my role. So if I'm a account executive, if I'm a customer support representative, if I'm a sales manager, we can really tailor this information that I'm seeing and point me down the right path. So again, for the sake of this, I'm just going to go on this quick take a tour. I want to understand what I'm going to be looking at every day, right? So WalkMe is now leading me through this sort of intro tour, virtual tour, telling me that this is your sales hub on your home page, right? This is your profile and settings icons. Again, this is a little basic. Here's your dashboards. Notice that we can embed a GIF. We can also embed videos and pictures, any other type of training, learning material, again, just to help the user learn about their data life or their daily activities. This is your relationship assistant. There's a video of Satya there. Here's a little video again, right? And then finally, it lets us know, well done, you've completed the welcome tour. There's Leo cheersing us in. Click next and open up the help center. So once we click next, I just want to take a second to stop here, and I'll show you where this is also. It's on the side of the screen. When I think of WalkMe, this is really what I think about. And it's essentially this sort of central repository, digital concierge, digital assistant that Amir mentioned, that sort of lives and breathes with me wherever I'm at inside of Dynamics again. So we have sort of two portions to it. One is this little help center. We also have an onboarding checklist or a list of activities to complete. So again, I'm a brand new user, and I'm a brand new seller at ABC Company, and I know that in my first day, for example, these are the 4 different tasks that I should complete. In my first week, these are the first 3 tasks, and then finally in my first month, what other tasks should I complete? So it sort of is gamified, and we can track all this information as well. So back on the Help Center, again, this is the central repository. It includes a lot of these smart walkthroughs, what we just sort of took you through, but it also sort of takes in old learning or modules or your knowledge base into this. So you can embed videos, other training materials, right? And it's all here, accessible, really easy to find. So for the sake of this demo, and again, I know we only have a minute or so left, I'm going to take us through the most common request that we get is how to create an actual opportunity. So we're going to go into opportunities, as it's saying, and I'm going to click new. Again, I'm just sort of following along, right? Just like a GPS. It's going to ask me to enter my topic. So let's say I say ABC, and I'm going to click next. So WalkMe also has something called data validation rules here, where it can actually stop me in my process and say, hey, you actually didn't format this the right way. We actually have to put the full name of the company or the topic and an amount. So I see that. I'm going to actually update the amount to 100K and click next, right? So this really helps when inputting right data, which is so important inside of a CRM system. We're going to enter the account. It's called ACB Company, okay? Oh, ABC. There we go. We're going to keep moving forward. It's going to ask me to enter, estimate the close date. We're going to be optimistic and say it's going to close at the end of this week. The estimated revenue, say 100K. Click next and click save. So bam, just like that, WalkMe actually took me through creating my first opportunity. And as soon as we click save, this is really the power to WalkMe. Is it notices that I have successfully created a new opportunity. Would you like to do anything next? So WalkMe could then help us log a call. We could go on to create a quote. We could create a team in Teams. We could take me outside of Dynamics into some other software solution that we're using. So this really is the power to WalkMe. Is again, it fits and works inside of Dynamics. It can tie to other processes, other applications that we're using. And there's a lot of other resources and things I could talk about here. Again, I just have maybe one more minute. I just wanted to show you on the backhand side what's really happening. So WalkMe has one of the most powerful analytics engines. This really, in my opinion, is the secret sauce. I think Amir would agree with that. So behind the scenes, we can track all the different applications that WalkMe is deployed on. We can see weekly usage per user, how many users are actually exposed to WalkMe, again, total active users. Again, I don't have enough time to really dig into this, but we could look into each specific application and find out where the bottlenecks are, where the questions are being asked, which helps us to create and build more WalkMe content, such as this button here, which we call a launcher, which can field or surface different material for me sort of in a process of completing an opportunity, for example. So again, I know this was just a couple minutes. Hopefully it gave you a quick sort of snapshot of the power of WalkMe. Please feel free to reach out directly to me, to Amir, if you have any additional questions or use cases you'd like to explore, and do appreciate you having me on today.
No, thanks a lot, Zach. I think it's apropos. I think it was Stephanie who made this call. I love the call out to get the absolute value of technology investment. I think a lot of times, especially with certain applications, product owners think we're calling that tool ugly, but it's really about helping our users realize its full potential, which is what you described. And I think one of the things I wanted to especially highlight what you showcase, Zach, is that not only is it within Dynamics, but as we all know, especially with business applications, we may think it's all maybe Microsoft-based solutions and technology. And we all know it's not, because we like to think that, hey, organizations may select all things Microsoft, and we know that doesn't happen. And there are other ISVs, particularly, or scenarios that you call upon at the very end, where you can jump to a different application and have a very similar WalkMe experience that guides them through that process, but it creates that end-to-end capability so they don't lose the context of, as they're bouncing from application to application, they still get that GPS experience that Amir was talking about and framing that up. So
I
exactly.
think the GPS analogy is actually very great, because I know we have got someone here from Vancouver, right? And you think about, if you were to drive to all the way to Vancouver, where you're crossing countries and languages and switching from miles to kilometers, you'd still expect your GPS to guide you all the way to your destination. That's exactly the thing with WalkMe. We're there to help the user through their business journey, regardless in which and how many applications they're using as part of that business journey. Maybe one more comment to add to Zach showed an example. At the end of the day, you configure WalkMe specifically according to the customer's own business processes on applications, and the analytics is the secret sauce, because you never know really what your experience is for your users, what works for them and what doesn't. I mean, yeah, companies do surveys and things like that, but you don't really know what's going on. And the fact that the analytics actually tell you exactly where you have gaps and pitfalls in your user experience and productivity allow you to actually create a contextual experience that would address those lacks in the experience, and really help the users, the different users, according to their needs. Part of that contextual experience.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, Amir, because you think about, especially in a global deployments, like to your example, like if someone spoke Hebrew, they could see that experience and go through that process, similar to that example going to a different, granted in Canada, they do speak English. So fortunate,
and WalkMe actually does work in any and as many languages as you want, regardless of the language of the underlying application. And oftentimes we have customers that deploy Dynamics globally in English, and yet if the user needs help in Korean, they can be guided in Korean, although it's in English, the Dynamics implementation. So.
That's right. That's right. So before we wrap it up, Amir and Zach, gosh, such a wealth of information. I'm sure we can go on and on and on, but I do want to have a nice call out. So Donna had noted, hey, I looked at WalkMe in the past and I think they was nice to have, but I like the showcase. I'm really thinking it's a must have now in Dynamics, like the demo. So Zach, thank you for doing that, because it's a nice call, because I think in a very quick, short time, you saw, I think people watching it could see the power and the possibilities of what's there. So as we wrap up, Amir and Zach, so what's next? I mean, what would be your recommendation as a call to action for people listening and maybe spark their interest and go, oh my gosh, well, this is super interesting. What would you recommend they do as a kind of as a next step?
First of all, I think that when it's worth checking out WalkMe for your own organization. I mean, yes, we showed a demo, a generic demo, but I think when you see WalkMe, when each and every one of us actually see what WalkMe looks like on our own applications within your organization, I think all of a sudden you're going to have the jaw drop, like we want. So I recommend you to try it. That is our lead for the Microsoft relationship. So any one of our audience can reach out to Zach or anybody else at WalkMe, but Zach is our focal point, and would be more than happy to take you through an example of what WalkMe might look like on your environment. So Zach, anything else you'd like the audience to do for a call to action?
Well, we have a brand new website, but so feel free to check that out. It's really cool, and it calls out different platforms that we layer on top of it, especially Dynamics being a big one. No, but I appreciate that, Amir, and I'm happy to field any questions and direct you to the right team over here and take you through a more customized demonstration or call through your use case. Again, this was super high level, and I think it really helps to speak to the actual pain points or some of the challenges or initiatives you have going on, and more than happy to help you there.
Hey, one thing, Zach, there's someone actually who wants your email address if you're okay with sharing. Otherwise, we're on the LinkedIn platform. I think one thing I always encourage everyone to do is reach out to Amir, Zach, or myself on LinkedIn and send a message. But I don't know, Zach, if you'd like to shout out publicly what your WalkMe email address is. I don't want to put it on the spot, but you can
absolutely. Yeah. It is it's my first Zach ZACH.Cohen COHEN @walkme.com.
Yeah, fantastic. The other thing that I do want to mention is we put this container together that has a lot of the great resources that Amir and Zach had mentioned, with also some blog posts, videos that go into a lot more depth and detail. So besides going to walkme.com, this is also another thing we typically do in all our sessions, is kind of put a container of all this great content into an easy to remember URL, just LinkedIn Live, May 24th, since that's today. So as we wrap up, I want to thank everyone for watching, taking the time, listening. And if you do watch the replay, again, feel free to put commentary in there, because we'll all see it. And then also don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We do this event every Monday, but just note next Monday is actually, as Zach and I know, it's actually a U.S. holiday, Memorial Day, so we won't be having one. In case you're like, oh, what's next week? So we will be back in June. And so just stay tuned. You'll see that show up. But Amir and Zach, any last final comments before we wrap up the session for the day?
No, just thank you again for having us. Thanks for the amazing win for our customers, win for Microsoft, win for WalkMe. That's what great partnerships are all about. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Amir. And Zach, any final comments before we wrap up?
No, just I echo the same sentiments. We've really enjoyed being a Microsoft partner, and I'm looking forward to this next year.
Great. Sounds good, everybody. Thanks again, Amir. Thanks again, Zach. Be well, be safe as always until we hopefully have this opportunity to meet face to face. Thanks again, everybody. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.